And what would you say maybe are some of the top misconceptions of somebody looking to pursue a career in financial planning? Like maybe what their view is versus what the real profession is?
Welcome to the Live Greater View, a financial planning podcast produced by VLP Financial Advisors that discusses life, money, and perspective. We help clients live their best life at every stage through our VLP Live Greater partnership process. Thank you for tuning in.
All right, welcome back to the VLP Live Greater View. My name is Andrew Fincher. I'm a financial advisor here at VLP and very excited for a special episode today. We're going to be talking about what it takes to become a financial advisor if you're looking to join the industry. I'm very excited to be here today with Richard Tamirisa. He's a current student in financial planning at George Mason University. He's a very prominent member in their Financial Planning Association, playing a big role in a lot of their on-campus activities. And one of the big things here is Richard is a former intern of VLP. So a lot of knowledge that he can really give us about current students today and what they're seeing and what we want to move forward in the industry. So Richard, thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So I kind of want to get into, what started your journey in financial planning. So I think a lot of people used to in the industry be second careers. It wasn't you're going to college for financial planning. Maybe you start in finance, maybe you do a whole different career and you end up there later on. But today we see a lot of students actually going to college to do financial planning. What led you to that path?
Yeah, so I think my story is a little bit unique. I actually grew up playing competitive tennis. And through that experience, I was able to travel around the world and see multiple different communities, various income levels, right? And in every single income level, every single community, there seemed to be the same similar problems, and they all kind of originated with money. And so I kind of thought to myself, hey, I want to prepare myself and the people around me in a way that we might not necessarily have to deal with these problems, or at least are best prepared for them. So that was kind of the first thing that really pushed me into that direction of doing financial planning and wealth management. And then also just the opportunities that we have as Americans, right? We are living in a first world country, and I come from an immigrant background. With my mother comes from Russia, my dad comes from India, and there aren't those same opportunities there. And I think taking advantage of the opportunities that I have here to be educated about capital markets, educated about Social Security, healthcare, how to properly navigate all of this is a good opportunity for me to give back to the community that I'm also a part of.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I think you've really parlayed some of that into not only reaching out for internships, but also getting involved on campus.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit what you chose to do to get more involved within the profession while you were in school, beyond just your coursework.
Yep, absolutely. So as you mentioned, Financial Planning Association at GMU, I'm an active member there. So we really want to make our students and people in the program, and generally people who are interested, who might be on the fence about it, as prepared as possible in the professional world, right? Because I think there is that transition between doing your coursework and then actually applying it, right? And so I think for me, I saw all the fruit that is in the industry, is in the financial planning industry, and I was like, okay, I want to give this back to kids my age. And I want people to also see this opportunity that they have for the reasons that I mentioned before. And so I think with the Financial Planning Association, my goal really with it is to, like I said, best prepare people and make that transition as seamless as possible. And then also just educate people, because unfortunately when you say financial planning, a lot of people know stocks, a lot of people know investments, investment banking, private equity, all that stuff, those buzzwords. But when you say financial planning, it's a little, sometimes people are going to say, oh, what is that, right? And so my goal is to make the communication of what I'm interested in and the industry that I want to be a part of as clear as possible so that people actually understand, because it's a very important issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at it from a big picture here, right? For people in our day and age that are coming into college wanting to do financial planning, you're a student at George Mason University.
Yep.
I came from Virginia Tech,
Yep.
right? And Virginia Tech has had a well-established program for a while. George Mason's a newer program. There's a lot of different things from coursework perspective, the faculty, students getting involved. What led you to sort of understand what George Mason's program was and even get involved in the first place?
So I think with getting involved with the program, I think with it being a smaller program, any graduates that come through the program are still heavily tied to it, right? And the board of the advisory board of the program is extremely involved, and they want to see students thrive. So that's kind of the advantage I see with a small program, is that everything is extremely tight knit. And if I have a question, I'm able to call Dan. If I have a question, I can email Jason Howell, right? And that ability to connect with people is something that in bigger programs might not be as accessible. And I think that's really the advantage of being in a program that's kind of in its growth stages.
Absolutely. And plus, when you're in the grassroots level like that, you sort of are able to have a bigger impact on the growth of the program. Absolutely. Versus maybe not being able to be as involved in one of the more established programs.
Yep.
So looking as a whole, right, you're still there, you're in this phase, you're a student, you're going to the next level. We're talking about somebody here who maybe wants to join George Mason's program, or just a program in general wanting to get into the profession. What does it look like from a school perspective of the type of coursework that may be involved if somebody wants to move forward here?
So starting off going into the program, obviously you're going to have your core classes, and then you're going to go into the business classes. So current business law and ethics, business 310, all like using Excel, all these different classes. And then as you kind of progress, you get into the more niche ones. And so there's estate planning, and with those niche ones, they actually bring in professionals who are in the industry, which is great because that lets students see and interact with professionals who didn't just teach it and are saying it, but actually practice it. And I think that is what really provides students with an amazing experience, is the fact that they're learning from professionals. They're not learning from professors or that sort of stuff.
Sure. And what would you say maybe are some of the top misconceptions of somebody looking to pursue a career in financial planning? Like maybe what their view is versus what the real profession can be.
So I think with financial planning, a lot of people might, number one, they don't even know what that means, right? And I think also they might say it's only one part. They say it's only retirement planning, only college. Like I come to you with a goal and you only solve that one goal, right? It's not as looking at the whole picture. So I think that's kind of something that I've realized and noticed, especially in the Financial Planning Association, interacting with people. It's people think it's a very kind of one-tracked focus. And then another thing is I don't think people are as aware of how much of a people business it is. And you'd be able to speak to this with clients, just interacting with clients on a daily basis. It's a very client-facing business, and you have to be able to express yourself and take difficult financial concepts or concepts that they might not want to take the time to understand, and you need to be able to simplify it in a way that it doesn't take them that long to understand it. And I think that's what a lot of people going into the program or into the industry think, is that it's not. It's a knowledge thing. I need to know this knowledge, and once I know this knowledge, I'm set. But it's more about, okay, how are you conveying this knowledge? How are you communicating this knowledge to the people around you?
I absolutely agree. And I think that's one of the things that we talk about going into it, right, is there's multiple aspects of what financial planning is. There is the technical aspect, but there's also the personal aspect of it. The ability to handle people's different emotions, be able to react off of that, and to be able to talk about some very intimate personal things about people's financial life that also impact the other parts of their life as well, right? Absolutely. And that is the feedback that we see so much, is the schools do give great technical expertise on some of these things, building off of the eventual CFP exam that we'll get to in a minute. But I think just for myself and what you'll experience as well is there's so much life experience that happens along the way that needs to be developed over the career to get to that point, right? I remember coming out and having some of the technical knowledge, but then you're sitting across the table from somebody that's maybe 50, 60, 70 years old, and they want to have conversations about what their finances look like for their kids, whether that's college planning, whether that's helping them with down payments on their homes, or fixing their own homes. And as somebody who doesn't have children, as somebody who doesn't own a house, you can learn about these things, talk about it, but it's not that you have that experience in the moments to be able to relate to the client. And so I think that's something that people, as they get through it, is to work on, is be able to have those conversations beyond just the technical aspects of it all.
Absolutely. Building that true relationship. And I think you can speak to it as well, as that with some clients, it's a friendship, right? They'll tell you about how their kids are doing, how the trips that they took, right? Not necessarily related to finances, but I would say even as related to that, and on the same level, just because that relationship and building that foundation of a strong interaction with somebody makes them want to open up and actually be completely transparent with you about how they deal with money, what are they planning on doing, what are their goals, and just breaking that barrier sometimes.
Fully agree. And that's exactly sort of the point, is we get so bogged down on the technical aspect, but that's really just the path, right?
Yep.
What matters is the end. What matters is what's important to them, because the money is just a resource to be able to do the things that they want to do with their family, travel, do all the other stuff. And that's what matters. And so I think that's something that, can get brought in for young students that want to build into the industry, is to say, hey, understand what's important to the client, not what's important to you based on the process that you've learned.
Yep.
And basically, if you're doing goals-based planning, you learn those goals, and then you work backwards to figure out how they can use those resources to get to where they want to be.
Absolutely.
So on that aspect, right, somebody who's getting into the industry, how can they learn some of those different aspects?
So I think the very first thing that somebody should do is practice speaking, practice expressing themselves. And that can manifest itself in many different ways, right? I could go to networking opportunities. George Mason is great, and specifically the financial planning board, and in partnership with the FPA of the National Capital Area, they provide a lot of opportunities to kind of practice those networking skills. But even if you don't have those networking skills and you don't have those opportunities, just going out and starting a random conversation with a stranger, right? Those same skills of building a conversation and learning about somebody and learning about how their day is going, those same skills translate over. And I think also just being as interactive and trying to build connections with your professors as well as the students. And I think sometimes that's kind of pushed to the side, is that people go to class and then they get out of the class and that's it, right? But you taking the time and going out to lunch with some of your fellow students, learning about them, learning about their stories, learning about why they wanted to get into financial planning. And I think that you're through all of these experiences and all these things that you do, you can build a network, you can build a group of people that you could ask a question when you're truly working in the industry. If I have a question about a certain plan, how I'm going to put it into Money Guide Pro, or how I'm going to organize somebody's retirement plan, I'm able to call those students that I spoke to when we were going through the program ourselves. And I think that you doing all of those things will definitely set you up for the best possible transition into the professional life.
And to that point as well, I would say getting an internship is huge in that example as well, because not only are you learning some of the technical aspects in real time alongside the schoolwork that you do, but you actually get to see some of those personal conversations play out, right? I mean, you were a part of our internship, and so maybe you could speak to some of the different things that you saw just by sitting in client meetings, taking notes, seeing how a senior advisor would handle some very emotional, difficult things that clients bring to the table in those meetings, and how they navigate through that to make the client feel like they're cared for, that their problems are able to be solved in this way. Maybe you could talk to that piece.
Yeah, I think the number one thing for me was the emphasis on the client, right? And the client coming first, and I'm here to serve the client. That's the thing that I observed best here, is that from the moment they walk into the door, we're offering them water, we're offering them food, we're offering them tea, coffee, we're offering to put their coat aside. And that care that we show them, that customer service essentially, makes a difference in how comfortable somebody feels. And I think when it comes to the planning aspect and when it comes to the technical aspect of it, it's all the advisors here have incredible amounts of experience to the point that they know what the client is doing and wants to do before they know themselves. And it's important and what I notice is that advisors here, they would say, okay, we have this plan, we set this plan, but we know this plan is realistically going to change. We're going to address this plan every year because something pops up, right? Just because of their past experiences. And so I think another thing that I noticed was the ability that I spoke to before, the ability to take something in the news that they hear about, right? In the newspapers, huge letters, and they're reading about it. They're coming into the office, they're saying, the Dow is up to this, or this happened, right? How do you take whatever they're feeling and address them in a way where it's, let's say they're coming in worried, how do you calm down those worries? How do you be that kind of rock in a situation where they might be freaking out or they might come in with certain emotions? How do you stay that rock for them, especially with their finances?
I fully agree. I think an internship is a very integral part, not just for the experience, but also as a resume booster, right? Somebody wants to get in the profession, an internship looks great to a future employer, just to see that they've had some of that experience working within an office structure, being able to navigate the different competencies needed for the profession. And then I believe, do you need an internship for the CFP at this point? I know it's been talked about.
So you need a certain amount of hours.
Okay.
And so through the internships, if you have enough, you could actually graduate and immediately, or there's a shorter amount of time for you to actually start practicing as a CFP practitioner.
Right.
As opposed to there's a certain amount of hours you have to get to have that CFP and actually label yourself a CFP.
Got it. And so in order to get that internship, kind of talk through what a student can do to find these opportunities, because that is such an important part of the process.
Yep. So networking is the key word. Definitely shaking as many hands as possible, telling about your story to as many people as possible, talking to your professors, asking them if they need any help with anything, if they know anybody who might be potentially looking for an intern. And then also looking at people in the program who might have graduated and going on LinkedIn and connecting with them and asking them, hey, do you have any internship opportunities? Do you know anybody who's looking for an intern? And then a huge thing is just getting involved in the organizations around the area. So the FPA National Capital Area, that's something that the events that I attend. So I go there and I try to meet people and kind of learn about their stories, learn about their firms, and see if they're looking for potential interns. So Andrew, from your perspective, what was that trajectory like from graduating from Virginia Tech and then being a professional in the industry?
Sure. So I think sort of the first thing that's on your mind coming out of an educational program in financial planning that's aimed towards this designation is getting the CFP. So that's the Certified Financial Planner designation. And that's sort of the key competency that you see among the industry to sort of show clients that you're competent within the industry to be able to handle their financial questions, right? And so in order to do that, the first thing is going to be having the educational requirement. In the courses that we did at Virginia Tech and George Mason, just by graduating with that degree, that qualifies you for the educational component. For people that have graduated with just a standard bachelor's degree, there's actually online programs you can do through College of Financial Planning. I think American has it. There's other universities that have sort of a condensed online version. And so once you do that, that gives you that as well. I think the big key is the exam, of course. So that's the large exam that you have to take. It's 2 3-hour sessions that you're studying roughly 3 months for, and there's some great services that help you study out there. I personally took Brett Danko, but there's also Kaplan, Zahn, a lot of great services out there as well. Dalton as well. And so once you get through that and you pass the exam, then you have to put yourself through an ethics questionnaire to make sure that you're an ethical advisor, because again, we're held to the fiduciary standard to do what's in the best interest of the client, to distance ourselves from previous views of the financial planning industry. And then based on the hours requirement, it's typically anywhere from 2 to 3 years industry experience to be able to qualify to have the CFP marks. Once that's all done and you pay the fee, then you have the marks, but of course there's continuing education. So you have to get 30 hours every 2 years to be able to maintain the degree or the certification as well. What other designations have you looked into, or something that maybe a student would be interested in pursuing?
So for me, one thing that I've definitely been looking into is the CFA. And that's just something because I have a passion for markets and am interested in talking about investments. And then also from a client perspective, when they see that somebody has the CFP and they have the CFA, it could provide them with a little bit more insurance that I'm really speaking to somebody who is aware of what is going on with all the different aspects that goes into managing money and growing wealth.
Yeah, absolutely. And another one I'll put to the table as well, I also have the AIF, which is the Accredited Investment Fiduciary, and that's more specific to 401k plans, making sure that you can work with plan sponsors to do what's in the best interest from an investment perspective and a compliance perspective to work with many employees under the branch of a plan. So that sort of leads to the career point that we talked to, right? And I think a lot of people, when they talk about a financial advisor, a lot of them think about client facing, right? But I think one thing that we do want to make a distinction on is you don't have to go into this industry and be successful just by being a client facing advisor, right? There's so many other roles that make up the whole of a practice that's successful towards helping clients out. What are some of those other roles that you've seen through your internship that other people within this degree could also pursue?
The positions that I observed during my internship was CSMs, portfolio managers, and investment managers. And CSMs were honestly the glue that kind of kept that relationship together, because they're doing all the paperwork. They're sending it out to the client. They're making sure everything's in the right place. They're making sure they sign in the right spot. It's sent out on time. Everything's filed on time. And I think that is extremely important. And honestly, it's important to have those skills and being aware of that part of the business before actually going out and being client facing. And I think also the second one that I saw was portfolio manager. So that's really understanding how the portfolio is made up, where the allocations are, balancing accounts, and balancing positions. If firm-wide we're going to make a trade, making sure that, okay, this person and the fees, they work well with that client. Is this the right move for that client? And so going through all kind of the technical aspect of the advising relationship.
Absolutely. And I would say, it's obviously going to depend on the firm, and every firm has a structure. Sometimes there's very fixed positions, and sometimes there are positions that eventually evolve to other positions. And what I would say as well is there are some firms where, if you're somebody that just likes to talk to people, you can go that direction. There's some people that don't necessarily want to talk to clients, but they love the technical aspect. They love working within the software, running projections on Social Security, running projections on financial plans, doing tax analysis. These are all things that you can do as well, and you can make a great living off of that just by being more of a technical aspect. You don't even necessarily have to be in finance. At our firm, we have director of operations that does a lot of the back end of the office. We have director of marketing helping us promote the business and be able to get different information out there. So there's a lot of roles in the industry that's not even just being a client-facing advisor, and you can make an amazing living, be very successful, and help people still reach their goals.
Absolutely. So Andrew, what sort of advice would you give students in financial planning programs who want to be financial planners, who want to get the CFP? What is some advice that they should have to get prepared for the industry?
Absolutely. I think the number one thing for sure is getting involved, right? And I think you have given an example of that where if you want to get involved, do the different things on campus, right? Get involved in the Financial Planning Association, whether that's in a management role on the board or whether that's just being a member and seeing different firms that come in and talk about their practices, what differentiates them. Because again, there's so many aspects within financial planning that you can go to, right? Even if you want to be a client-facing advisor, that doesn't mean you have to just be a general financial planner.
Mm-hmm.
You could have niches and specialize in different areas just within that one piece, right? You could be somebody that's really into taxes. Maybe you're a CFP CPA and you want to focus on different tax planning depending on where regulations go. You could be somebody like we have on staff, a certified divorce financial analyst. She really likes working with clients that are going through divorce and want to do it in a mediated way. And she helps split assets and talks through that. We have somebody who works with domestic partners. It really depends on what your particular niche is. For me, I have an interest in business exit planning, people who are looking to get out of a business and they have a windfall of money and what do they do with it, right? There's so many aspects. And I think as they go through it, what I recommend is be patient, try different things out, because different firms are going to offer different things. One internship is great just because getting general client experience, but if you have the opportunity to intern at multiple different firms, because every firm's going to operate differently, it's going to be different sizes, different compensation structures, different ways that they handle client meetings. And so when you get the broad view of what that looks like in the industry, that really allows you to hone in on where your role can be moving forward in the industry. And then you can sort of make an educated decision on where you want to go. So take your time, look at the different areas, and then you're able to kind of move forward with the CFP and sort of branch out from there.
Absolutely.
Well, Richard, I appreciate you hopping on today. I think moving forward here, everyone try to find an internship, right? Any other feedback that you have here?
I think the biggest thing that I will say is definitely check your email. That's a huge thing for students because there are so many opportunities that go to people's inboxes and it gets lost in the shuffle. And I think that so many people can have so many experiences by just opening up an email and applying to something.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And overall, we get more people in the industry and we can help all clients live greater.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And we'll look forward to the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Live Greater View. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Spotify and recommend our podcast to family and friends. To learn more about VLP Financial Advisors, please check out our website at vlpfa.com. Thanks again.
And now for our necessary disclosures. Securities and advisor services offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor. All investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will be successful. The views stated in this podcast are not necessarily the opinion of Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned. Due to the volatility with the markets mentioned, opinions are subject to change without notice. Information is based on sources believed to be reliable. However, their accuracy or completeness cannot be guaranteed. Past performance does not guarantee future results.